have to create an environment that we step into. Now, one of the ways to do that is to show up authentically, to be confident in who you are, knowing that not everybody's going to like you because you don't align with common values. But here's the thing. If you put yourself in an environment with others where you share common values, really hard to lose in that world because you're in those conversations with people that share common conversations, common values, common goals, common philosophies on life and how we do business. And that really is being your truest self. And whatever your truest self is, listen, if you're doing shady deals, surround yourself with other people who are doing shady deals and you'll get along great. If you're doing shady deals and you put yourself in an environment where other people don't do shady deals, you're going to get your ass handed to you. So whatever it is, that's the kind of the philosophy around it. It is our job as business owners, as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, that we create an environment for ourselves to, in fact, elevate, succeed. People who are comfortable questioning us, but not making us wrong.
Yeah. And, I think it's always good to surround yourself sometimes with people who don't just agree to agree. Right. You also got to put yourself in some situations where you hear other perspectives. There is a time in life where I think it can be dangerous, if we're going to the far extremes where people only surround themselves with people who have, awful thoughts, and now you're surrounding yourself with those people. But I definitely think there's something to, if you want more from your life and you surround yourself with people who have more, and be humble and be kind of like the small fish in the big pond. I think what unfortunately happens is, well, at least in my specific example. So growing up, my parents definitely put me as the small fish in the big pond in terms of I ski raced growing up. And a lot of the people that were in my core group of friends came from wealthy families. I did not come from a wealthy family. And I know what it felt like to feel poor. I wasn't poor, but I felt poor compared to these people. And, it's all relative, right? And I remember thinking that was where my ambition came from, because I never wanted to feel like that again. But what can be dangerous, and I think a lot of people who do succeed, who come from kind of humble beginnings, is that once they get to that place, now they feel like I've made it, right? And I never wanted to feel that way again. So they like feeling like the big fish in the small pond. And all of a sudden they don't want to challenge themselves anymore. So they don't want to go and be surrounded by other people. And I think that's where you get, some of those people who put themselves in rooms and they're kind of like talking just to be heard versus coming to something to listen. And we put on a bunch of programs, and in most of the programs, we'll have like a group of 10 people. And there's usually always one person in each of our programs that suffers from the same thing, and I said, it's so interesting. They came to learn from us, but they find every opportunity to teach and to preach. And so I think people just have to check themselves a little bit. And so do we. Like, our program's not the be all end all. I can learn something from them. There's always an opportunity for us to grow. You can learn something from people who have more money than you, less money than you. You can learn from people who have more experience or less experience, because sometimes people with less experience, they look at things differently. They're not so in the weeds. They can see things from an outsider's perspective that you've forgotten what that used to feel like. And so, yeah, I think always just kind of being open-minded. I take a lot of things home at night and I'll kind of like assess, like, what did that person mean by that? I wonder. And maybe I didn't look at that from the right vantage point. And it takes a lot of time, obviously, mental bandwidth. I'll have a TV on and I'm not watching the TV. I'm just kind of running through those things in my head. But I actually think I learn a lot by doing that. I learn a lot of where I think people are coming from. How can I use that in my business? How can I look at something differently? I mean, I would have never purchased real estate if I hadn't put myself in uncomfortable positions, because I was never taught that, right? So I surrounded myself with people who had different philosophies than me. And I think it served me really, really well.
Stretched and grew you because of that. And that goes back to creating the environment that, when you, it's like if you go golfing, and you know this even as an athlete, and when you put yourself in a position where if you're golfing with 3 other people who are better than you, you will golf better. You may have a shitty day and a shitty game relative to those 3 people, but you always golf better when you're hanging out with 3 other people who are better golfers. Your game automatically elevates. It just does. And I'm sure that you've experienced that even as a skier, is that when you're skiing with others who are even better or you're a match, you're pushing yourself, you're more focused, you're finer tuned, have a pretty good ski day. I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but being a bit of an amateur skier, totally amateur skier, I know that when I ski with
really
other
being
people.
In Calgary? Skier?
No, I'm not in Calgary. I'm actually, and by the way,
I thought you were in Calgary.
No, I fool people. I'm bi-provincial. I actually live in British Columbia and Alberta. Home base is actually Edmonton because I've got businesses there. Yeah, Edmonton and family there. Yeah, and so, and by the way, Calgary's only an hour away from the greatest skiing in the world, Lake Louise, and
I've skied there. That's true.
And here in Fraser Valley, I'm only 90 minutes away from Whistler, well, a couple hours from Whistler. So, anyways, the point is that I've got great skiing. By the way, I am totally an amateur skier, but it's interesting about that is that when I'm skiing with better skiers, I have a tendency to follow them, and I'm always the guy at the front, not or at the back, not the front. And that's because I'm watching them how they're skiing and I'm picking up all their ski tips, which forces me to ski better. I love that aspect of it. That's my philosophy on being better.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's funny. I tell people to put on educational events because I just seen what it's done for my real estate business. But oftentimes people are really afraid. And I say, nothing's stopping you from bringing on another realtor and doing an event together. And once you bring in that other person and you can kind of lean on each other, what you end up finding is that your game kind of goes up because you don't want to disappoint them. It's almost like having a personal trainer too, right? And their game goes up because they don't want to disappoint you. And if you guys each say like, I'm going to make 10 calls today and you're going to make 10 calls, neither of you wants to be the one that only made 8. You both want to be the one that says, actually, I did 12 calls today. And so I think there's additional benefit by surrounding yourself with other people or teaming up with people. Not to say you have to be a team, but just to do things that make you uncomfortable as a team until you kind of get more comfortable with it. I think that's a great opportunity to kind of like push yourself outside your comfort zone without, feeling like you're going to faint, for example. Whatever gets you to do it.